Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to look at kind of the new hotness in Modern in mono white humans. This deck has been tearing up Modern challenges and Modern leagues, and a good friend of mine actually just won a near 100 person local RCQ with it. And I wanted to teach you about this deck playing some kind of, I would argue, unplayable cards. We're going to talk about the card choices, we're going to talk about how the deck plays, and why you should be trying out this deck for yourself. Let's do it. So mono white humans is pretty straightforward. It is trying to kill your opponent as fast as possible by playing very efficient creatures that synergize with each other. Let's start with the mana base. We're playing 4 Shining Shoals. It's very obvious, right? Being able to make your humans uncounterable is amazing. Aganjo Castle is really solid in protecting our legendary creatures in Thalia and Adeleine. Aganjo Seed of the Empire is like an uncounterable removal spell. Just spell lands are amazing as well. Playing 4 Mutavault because it is a human and a land. And then 6 planes. And we're going to divide this deck up into a couple different categories. By the way, Ameria's Call is also a land, so really it's running 21 lands. The first category is our aggressive creatures, which frankly is most of the deck. We're playing 4 Champion of the Parish because a 1-drop that gets bigger and bigger and bigger every time you play a human, which is just incredible. We're playing 4 Esper Sentinel. Esper Sentinel is this great card that is a human and gets pumped up by all of your other human synergies like Thalia's Lieutenant, which we're going to talk about in just a second, and allows you to draw cards when your opponent just does stuff. It is a must answer for your opponent, or you're just going to start drawing cards and just outcard your opponent, which mono white humans decks shouldn't be able to do. We're playing 3 Hopeful Initiate. This deck can be really soft to cards like Ensnaring Bridge, and having that main deck Artifact Hate is really strong, even if cards like Dauntless Bodyguard might be a little bit more aggressive. Hopeful Initiate can be nearly as aggressive, can end up a lot bigger, and allows us to have that main deck Artifact and Enchantment Hate, which is very powerful in Modern. Playing 4 Thalia's Lieutenant, this is really the glue that holds the deck together. It is an anthem for our humans, and also acts as a champion of the parish, allowing itself to be pumped up whenever we play another human. Playing 4 Thalia Garden of Thraben. Similar to Esper Sentinel, it really abuses our opponents for casting non-creature spells, which most of the Modern decks totally rely on. Playing 4 Luminarch Aspirant, being a human in and of itself, and sort of acts as like a Thalia's Lieutenant Light, in that every combat on your turn, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, which is really awesome because you can kind of selectively choose which creature you want to put the +1/+1 counter on, so you can make sure that you can get through attacks every single turn. And 4 Adeleine Resplendent Cathar, it's a star 4 with Vigilance, 3 mana human knight. Powers equal number of creatures you control. Already great because we're storming the board with creatures. But then also when it attacks, when any creature attacks, it creates a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking, which can do some really cool stuff. Like, one, cool, it's another human. Like, that's all very, very good. But it being a human, it means that in combat, Champion of the Parish gets pumped up, and Thalia's Lieutenant gets pumped up. And if you play a Thalia's Lieutenant after you have a couple of these human tokens, it pumps them all up. So this is like the core of the deck, right? This aggressive human strategy, and that makes sense. Let's get into the spice. I'm going to bring Ameria's Call back over here. First off is Solitude and Shining Shoal, I think, go into the same category. Shining Shoal is, frankly, an unplayable card, but this deck sort of treats it like a Force of Will. You can exile a white card from your hand with mana value X from your hand rather than play your spell's mana cost, and the next X damage that a source of your choice would deal to you and or creatures you control is dealt to any target instead. This is our deck's answers to Fury, and Fury has historically been the big reason that this deck and decks like this have been unsuccessful. But this stops Fury. This stops removal spells. And frankly, this means that we automatically win races by preventing damage and redirecting it to our opponent. You can also protect your creatures with it, not just yourself. And Solitude, another free spell, is 5 mana 3/2 flash lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, we can exile up to 1 other target creature. This creature's controller gains life equal to his power. We don't really care about that. And we can evoke, exile a white creature from our hand, so we can cast it for free if we exile a white card from our hand. So this removes things that are able to block our aggression. We don't care if they gain life. We get to continue expanding our board because Solitude can cost 0 mana, get rid of something our opponent plans on blocking our creatures with, and get through damage. Having so many cards that exiles cards from our hand, how are we going to have enough cards to do the aggro? Well, because of Ameria's Call and Chancellor of the Annex. Ameria's Call acts as a land for us, so we can run the 21 lands, but also on its front side is a sorcery. It's a huge sorcery that we do cast once in a great while, but very rarely cast. Most of the time, we're either going to be playing this for a land or pitching it to Shining Shoal or Solitude. So it gives, it's sort of like a land with multiple modes, which is amazing. And we're going to be playing for Chancellor of the Annex, which you can reveal the card from your opening hand. If you do, when each opponent casts their first spell of the game, counter that spell unless they play one. All of the good Modern decks are really efficient with how they use their mana. They want to do something in turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, move on, right? And Chancellor of the Annex forces them to play slightly different and have to play their cards slightly more difficult. And it makes them have a really hard time in like interacting with your aggro. You reveal Chancellor of the Annex, go Champion of the Parish, turn 2 Thalia Garden to Thraben, and they still have to pay for the Chancellor of the Annex tax. They're in a lot of trouble. And it doesn't get stuck in our hand because we can pitch it to Shining Shoal and Solitude, which is really, really amazing. As far as the sideboard goes, we're playing 2 Born to Forge Tender. This is like extra protection against cards like Fury or board wipes and things like that. We're playing a Cathar Commando, just extra hate for artifacts or enchantments, in addition to Hopeful Initiate. Having Flash makes it pretty good against like board wipey decks as well. We're playing 3 Containment Priest. Sorry, I have a couple versions of it. This is really solid against decks like Creativity or Living End. And a human, that is a 2/2 for 2, which is totally fine. We're playing some Draneth Magistrate. Your opponent can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. It's our Cascade hate, mostly. We're playing Sanctifier Envic. This deck is a little bit soft to scam because of Fury. Playing a Sanctifier Envic, and then pumping it up with Thalya's Lieutenant and Luminarch Aspirant and things like that and clearing the way means that we can kind of beat Scam and other decks that like care about their graveyard. Is pretty good against Living End, et cetera, et cetera. Extraction Specialist is very good because obviously this deck loses to being overwhelmed with the removal spells and controlling the board, and this deck allows you to kind of 2-for-1 your opponent by bringing something back and having a body in and of itself against these removal spell decks. And we're playing a Sanctum Prelate against decks that rely on cards of a certain mana cost, right? You play this card and are able to say 6 against Amulet Titan is very strong, or even 0 against Amulet Titan I think is really strong, or against Cascade decks being able to say 0 and things like that. So if you like this video, I hope you like this deck. I genuinely guarantee it is such a good deck. You should try it out. And if you want to see more videos, deck techs like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.